I'd like to call the Wednesday, May 29th, 2024 meeting of the Gardner City Council Finance Committee to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Council Canalao.
Present.
Council Mack.
Present.
President Census.
As there's announcement of open meeting recording, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting. May transmit the meeting through any medium subject to reasonable requirements of the chair as to the number, placement, and operation of equipment used so as to not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Any person intending to make such a recording shall notify the chair forthwith. All documents and exhibits used or referenced at the meeting must be submitted in duplicate to the city clerk as they become part of the meeting minutes. Is anybody here recording? Hearing none. On to the first time on the agenda section. Item 11292, in order appropriating $320,000 from free cash to the DPW snow and ice removal expense account. Director Arnold, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is the annual backfill for the snow and ice account. It's one of those things that we purposely budget a flat amount because under the state statute, you have to budget the amount you budgeted the previous fiscal year in the original appropriation year after year. However, it's one of those that's allowed for us to go over in deficit spend because you never know what's going to fall out of the sky in a given year. Under the state statute, this is something that can be amortized over a period of 5 years, or if the city has free cash remaining at the end of the fiscal year, we can pay that off that way. That's traditionally what Gardner has chosen to do. That way we don't carry an extra form of basically uninterest-bearing debt on our books. But it's one of those things that just cleans things up and closes the fiscal year completely at the end of the fiscal year. It is substantially lower than last year's, where last year we had about $1 million over, where this year we're around, I believe it's close to $700,000.
613.
613.
343, yeah.
So it's just closing out, and this covers the cost of salt, the overtime for the individuals who are driving the plows, the flex time if any of them choose to use their time that way. All personnel, salary, and expense costs with snow removal is covered in this line item.
Anything to add, Director Arnold?
We had a really nice Saturday in March, and we thought we were out of the woods, and then winter started again. So we were in pretty good shape, but I think we've spent about 200 grand since March.
Yeah, but I take full responsibility for that because I asked him after that Saturday if we should put this appropriation up at that point, and then 2 days later we got a snowstorm.
See, I had a resident ask about street sweeping, and Director Arnold told me that it was too early to be asking about such things. So I don't know, maybe it's my fault. Any questions, comments?
No, I just actually think that we were very fortunate to have the mild winter we had with the lack of contract plowing people, the limited DPW workers we actually had. So I think we should all be pleasantly surprised it is as low as it is, and hopefully we can be more at full staff for next winter.
Yeah. I'm assuming, relatively speaking, obviously, as every other year, costs and expenses have gone up, so that number is significantly low.
Significantly low.
If we had the same kind of winter we had the previous year, it would have been much higher than even
A
that
few
number.
years ago, we were paying $65 a ton for salt. We're paying $95. So it's 50% increase in the cost of salt.
With the new salt shed, though, we should be able to buy it more bulk supply, I would hope, next year.
Bulk,
Yeah.
it's under a state, it's either a state contract or there's a bunch of cities and towns that do a municipal bid that actually turns out to be cheaper than state, but we do try to buy it as a
Consortium.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move the order to the council for approval.
Second, motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Derlowitz to recommend the order to the full council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion carries. Next item, item 11293, in order appropriating $35,000 from free cash to DPW repairs and maintenance expense account. Mr. Mayor?
This is mainly to cover the cost of overages that we had in repairs and maintenance to the vehicle equipment at the DPW. Just one of those end of the year backfills, trying to get all the accounts back up to where they need to be so we can close out the fiscal year.
We're currently at about just over $19,000 deficit. I just checked it yesterday. So with the additional $35,000, we'll pay that off, and we'll have about 15 grand to get us to the end of the fiscal year. If we run into problems with any large ticket expense or repairs, we'll just park the equipment until July 1st and then work on it after the new fiscal year.
All of these appropriations that you have for the first time in the agenda section do have buffers in them to not only get us to where we need to be as of today, but through the end of the fiscal year, and we can get you what those buffer amounts are as well.
Questions, comments from the committee?
So do you usually have your own maintenance repair person, but currently don't because of the staffing?
We should have 6 mechanics. We have 3. We did have 4, but there was just a retirement back in March. So we're down to 3 mechanics, and they not only fix all the DPW equipment, which is probably 80 pieces of equipment, they also repair police and city hall equipment as well. So there's probably well over 150 to 200, and that also includes small repairs, lawnmowers and things like that. But they're never out of things to do.
Yeah.
With the shortage there, is this budget going forward for the next fiscal year to accommodate for these outside repairs, or is this something that's going to come back?
We're meeting with the union to negotiate on Monday for both unions, so I'm hoping that we can get a more marketable contract at that point. So hopefully we'll have the staff at that point for next year.
Okay. I have nothing further. Is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah, I make a motion that we recommend the order to the city council for approval.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Jernlowitz to recommend passing the order to the full city council. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 11294, an order appropriating $24,000 from free cash to DPW Energy and Utilities account. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, this is basically covering the cost, the fuel and energy costs that the DPW undertakes. The DPW does, again, have the biggest fleet in terms of number in the city. So just one of those things, again, just closing out the fiscal year, getting this back up into the black, and the director can get into the fine-tooth details of it.
That's just as everyone's energy and utility bills have gone up. So we spend about $6,600 a month, roughly, depending on the month. We're currently about 11 grand in debt, and we haven't covered May and June. So I figure if we got $14,000 and then cover the cost, that 24 grand should get us till July 1st.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, I just, is there a breakdown of the difference between like fuel and electricity? I mean, how much of it is gas and?
Fuel is that's a separate account. That would be for, this is for the lighting, your heat, not only for the DPW building at at 416 West Broadway.
Yeah.
It also covers the fuel and gas at Mega Drive. I say fuel. I should say gas and electricity, heat.
So for next year, was this budgeted higher? I mean, do we always know there's going to be a deficit in this line item?
It's one of those that we hit and miss. I'd have to see what the actual budget document has in it there too. It's one of those, the same thing with the city hall account or the public building maintenance account that we have with the fuel. We guess what we're going to be paying for it every year, but it's one of those that you never really know what's going to happen during the fiscal year too.
And this isn't part of the solar project, these buildings?
Again, it's all subject to that engineering
Okay.
review.
I
We
just-
declared them surplus for it, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they'll have the stability for it.
I just think fuel I could understand, knowing that there'd be an overage because of the fluctuation in costs. I just figured for energy and,
Yeah.
and utilities, I think we'd, be able to plan in advance. Thank you.
With the energy, there's the new rate that started in November, right? That
Yes.
should affect that amount as
Yeah.
well and have it hopefully drop. So
That is
it's tough
correct,
to
yes.
predict. I have nothing further. Is there a
Yeah.
motion for it?
I make a motion that we recommend the order to the full council for approval.
Second, motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Jernlowitz to recommend the order to the full council. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Arnold. Next item, 11295, an order appropriating $50,000 from free cash to the mayor's unclassified termination leave expense account. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is something that is in the mayor's unclassified account as explained in the budget document. We put a account of money in there based off of who we know is going to be retiring during an annual fiscal year. And then somewhat of a buffer to put in if there's resignations along the way. This account pays out anyone's accrued time off benefits that they're owed time, so that's anything but sick time that we pay out for the city. Again, we never know how many people are going to leave employment with the city during a given fiscal year, so we go off of when we send the budget memorandum out, we ask if we know of any retirements that are expected during the fiscal year. And then we build in a couple, a handful of employees in case there's any resignations or stuff that come up during the, when the budget is passed in the end of the fiscal. So this is to cover the costs associated with paying out those individuals who have left employment with the city during this fiscal year.
Questions, comments?
I have no questions.
Just a quick question on it. Is it currently in the red, and how is it paid for until this appropriation happens?
John Richard can answer that one.
It's basically currently in the red 38,000. Oh, yeah, 38,000. Basically, it was the HR director's leaving. That was unexpected. And then we have another one coming up that is unexpected, and that's going to be 7,000. So right now, that'll cover about 45,000. We have $5,000 to play with until the end of the year. Hopefully, nobody leaves.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Nothing else? Is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah, I recommend that we move the order to the full council for approval.
Second, motion made by Councilor Mack and seconded by Councilor Donalawitz to recommend the passage of the order to the full council. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none.
Mr. Chairman, just as clarification too, the reason why we do these is free cash now rather than, I guess, moving things around or just closing things out while that accounts in the red, even if the bottom line is in the black, is because it does negatively impact our free cash amount next year if we don't go through and do processes like this. The Department of Revenue, when they review our closeout of the fiscal year, will actually deduct any overages from free cash until transfers like these are made on the local level, and then we get it. So it's basically a 2-year delay in free cash in certain aspects of that. So that's why we try to close things out like this, and that's why, so like you said, the account's in the red now, but we try to make it in the black as best as we can so it doesn't impact what we can do next year.
Okay. Thank you for the further clarification. Hearing no discussion, further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is 11297, an order appropriating $7,000 from free cash to airport various expense accounts. Mr. Mayor?
Did you skip 9-6?
Did I skip one?
Yep.
I'm sorry. Order 11296, an order appropriating $4,000 from free cash to ambulance repairs and maintenance account.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is going with costs associated with repairs that need to be made to the current ambulance. There's certain chassis work and rust issues that had to be covered up. However, I don't expect this to be a continuing expense as the ambulance is set to arrive imminently.
Then within 2 weeks, it'll be here.
It is in Massachusetts from where it was being constructed before. It's in Attleboro right now, getting the final touches on it, which is where the dealer that we bought it from is located. The chief and some of the admin staff, or the lieutenant staff, thank you, went down to go look at the ambulance, and it looks like it's all set and ready to go. So this is just getting us through where we need to be for the end of the fiscal or until that ambulance arrives.
I saw some pictures online, I think,
Yeah,
of it,
it's
so I
great.
didn't know if it was here yet or not, but glad to hear it's going to be here soon. And the normal rotation is the current ambulance becomes the reserve, is that correct? And then the reserve, do sell or scrap, whatever you're able to do?
At this point, we're gonna hold on to the third one. Just because we put some money into it this fiscal year to pass the state inspection, which was in February. We were not anticipating having to do that because we thought the new one was going to be here prior to that, but
Yep.
where it was delayed, we had to keep the reserve one going. So we've put some money into it. It's passed inspection. That state inspection is good for 2 years. So at this point, we're just gonna maintain it as a backup to the backup, which in recent history has been needed because of parts delays and the time it takes to complete repairs. So it'll be good to have it. It's not really going to cost us anything, and then down the road a little bit we'll determine what we're going to do with it, sell it, or there are other options too. So possibly re-chassising it in the future as a
full reserve ambulance at that point, because that's the box is good. It's the chassis of the truck that needs updating.
Okay.
So it's one of those, we'll see where we go in the future with it. If it's something that we keep just to have on a reserve account, reserve on the fleet, that way, I guess if we need it, it's there and we don't have to scramble to try to find something. Our partnership with Woods is a very strong partnership, but that doesn't mean that there's not times that all of the ambulances are out and we're left with something else that needs to be done in the city and we're calling for a mutual aid, trying to figure out what's going on. And it better helps us plan for the future if the department wants to grow or have any other changes to it.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments?
No, I just think it's important for that this expense is to still maintain the ambulance in service. So it's
Yes.
not like just because we're getting a new one, you know, we're putting
Yeah.
money in something that we're not gonna continue to use, so.
And this was the cost of what was ordered for the ambulance to be able to be used from February to current
Yeah.
as well, that we didn't expect. So this is, the ambulance has been in use since this money was expended.
I have no further questions.
Entertain a motion?
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to recommend passage of the order to the full council.
Motion made by Councilor Mack and seconded, motion made by Councilor Mack and seconded by Councilor Donalawitz to recommend passage of the order to the full council. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Chief.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, 11297, an order appropriating $7,000 from free cash to airport various expense accounts. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As you are well aware, the federal government has given a large amount of grant funding that, for the airport in terms of the airport resurfacing project, money for a new boiler, money for a new apron at the airport. That should be starting very soon. Most of those projects came before the council because some required city matches, others did not. But between the state and federal government, we've probably had about $8 million in grant funds expended at the airport this year, or received for the airport this year. Just for clarification's sake, all of that money was from the Federal Aviation Administration, could only be used at the airport itself. But while we were doing those upgrades, and there was some grant money to fix up the building itself and paint and just general maintenance on the facility, there were some overages that were there just to get complete the project and get it where it needed to be, so that this is the funding used to cover the costs and get us back to where we needed to be, because the costs associated with the maintenance and repair on the building, overseen by Director Davis.
Thank you. Further questions or
I have no
comments?
questions.
I have none.
I make a motion to recommend passage of this order to the full council.
Second, motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Donalawitz to recommend passage of this order to the full council. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Section under referred to finance, 11256, a resolution to rename the city council chamber the Ronald F. Cormier Council Chamber, submitted by Councilor Judy Mack, more time on 4/16/2024, 5/2024, and referred to finance on 5/6/2024.
I'm going to request Councilor Donalawitz for more time on this item, if there's no objection.
I have no objections, so there'll be, the committee will be granted more time. Item 11286, an order appropriating $30,000 from free cash to the mayor's unclassified escrows v. city lawsuit expense account. And the city council referred to finance committee 5/20/24. More time. Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Mr. Chairman. I have requested the redacted bills from Attorney Petrini going back to when this lawsuit was first filed to present. Those redacted bills have not yet been received. The reason they have to be redacted is there's certain strategical information that's listed as the breakout and the number of hours that are on the bill. So those items that are still ongoing or still part of attorney-client privilege do need to be redacted. Once those are received, I'll be sure to send those off to the council. That way you can see the full amount that's been expended so far, how many hours, and what that cost breakdown is per hour as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm seeing we're getting those put together. If there's no objection from the rest of the committee, I think we should just ask for more time.
Agreed.
There'll be more time on item 11286. And item 11289, an ordinance to amend the code of the city of Gardner, part 1, therefore entitled Administrative Legislation of the City Council, and referred to Finance Committee 5/20/24. Is anything you'd like to stay on this at this time?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is something I expect may take a while before the City Council, just because it is a 45-page document. At my inaugural address this year, I talked about updating the city code and going through and seeing if there was anything that was outdated, anything that needed updating, anything that hasn't been looked at in a long time. And this is the first part of that review that is being put forward. This is everything, and the code right now is split up into part 1 and part 2, administrative and general legislation. The administrative legislation oversees all of the aspects of how City Hall is run. What the changes you'll mainly see in here is that we've gone through all of the controlling statutes of the boards and commissions. So if a commission is overseen by some form of the general laws or other section of the city code, and it says I'll use the ZBA as an example because that's separately before the city council right now. The state law says a zoning board of appeals can have up to 7 members, no less than 3. Or excuse me, up to 5 members, no less than 3. So the code would now say up to 5 members. Or if there's another board or commission that says, you know, the board could have 5 members, but minimum 5 members up to 7. The ordinance would now say up to 7 to mirror what's in the general laws right now, so we're not further. So it does allow us to stay at our current number, but allows us some growth if we need it in the future. Additionally, the largest section of it is actually the personnel ordinances of the city. Our non-union employees in terms of time off benefits, vacation, sick, all those types of things that would normally be for a union employee in a contract are actually in the ordinance code. And those have largely, except for a small change here or there, not been reviewed since 2004 per the records that we have on the city code. So this is largely updating those to bring them up to date to one, what our union employees have, but also to make those non-union positions more marketable. There's a lot of things in the ordinance code right now that are out of date for our personnel, our non-union personnel ordinances. For instance, right now we have what's called sick incentive time. This was put in place in 2006. That's if an employee doesn't call out sick during a period of 1 month. They currently get 3.5 hours of non-vacation, non-personal time that they can earn. It's basically a way to prevent abuse of sick time. However, our union employees get 4 hours of it, and they can use it on an hourly increment, where for our non-union employees, vacation, sick, and incentive time and personal time must be used on a minimum half-day basis. So if you go into a quick doctor's appointment and you're coming back by city code right now, you have to use a full half-day of time rather than just taking that hour to go over there. So it's making things a lot more in line, making things more manageable, making things more marketable, and making things more in line with what our private sector colleagues are doing. That way we can actually get marketable positions. Additionally, there's a lot of provisions in the city ordinances for positions that are now union positions that when they were adopted in the early 2000s were not union employees. For instance, there is a dynamite stipend in the ordinances for the DPW if they ever had to use dynamite. One, our insurance would never allow our DPW employees to use dynamite right now, and we contract that service out. But 2, none of the personnel ordinances apply to our DPW employees because now they're in 2 separate unions as well, depending on if they're foreman or just regular non-foreman DPW employees. So it's just cleaning up a lot of the minutia that's in there and updating things that should have been updated a long time ago.
I know your office and all the department has put a lot of time in the commissions to do these updates. You said it's 45 pages just on this part. I agree, more time on this to allow the finance committee as well as the full council to digest it all and come up with any kind of recommendations or thoughts is the best idea.
Yeah,
So-
I expect this one to be largely a conversation rather than a review done in terms of, yeah, this was proposed, but maybe this instead. And that's something I'm fully open to with this, just because it's something that we haven't looked at since I was in 5th grade. So it's one of those that we just need to take the time and review it. I'll let you know that the next one is actually, the next set is a lot smaller. It's only 5 pages, and it's certain traffic ordinances, and the Traffic Commission is going to be reviewing that at their next meeting before it comes to the council next.
Okay, great. So I would recommend just asking for more time as long as there's no objection from the Rainbow Committee.
No, I definitely agree, and I think it's important to pull out that the mayor and the department heads are doing the work for us to make the changes, so it is what needs to be done to mirror or to represent the contracts and what it needs to be is being presented to us. So it is, as the mayor said, more of a conversation and recommendations because we have to go based on what the agreements are with the employees.
Yeah, it's largely just thinking off the top of my head, it's an extra week's vacation, I think an extra half-day personal time, and making the year periods right now, because it was different depending on police and fire chief had a quicker, you earn your vacation time at a quicker rate than all the other department heads, so putting those in the same time frame. Department heads earned time off seniority quicker than non-department head employees, so again, evening out the time scales with what our union employees are getting right now so that we can, I guess, just have more parity between our actual employees rather than one individual in an office having a different full scale completely than the other individual who's sitting at a desk next to them in the same office.
Makes sense. Get more time on item 11289. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, motion made by Councilor Mack, seconded by Councilor Darrell Lowitz to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The meeting stands adjourned.